We're back for day 5. Day 5, 5 days until the start of the fast. This is when things start to get really fun. We've eliminated all of those things that are slowing down the detox process of our body. We've decided to get real serious about cleansing, and we're doing all we can to bulk up the bowel movements and move them through. Do you believe me already? Do you start to see the benefits of hydration and all that plant matter coming through your body? You should have noticed some changes 5 days in. If not, send me a message, all right? But as we start to poop more, we're really prepping our body for cleanse. Depending if you're a female, where you are in your menstrual cycle, that will involve your hormones. If you're a male as well, you might start to notice things like skin outbreaks if you have not been able to move your bowel. And the reason for that is because your body is going into detox mode. Hallelujah. So your skin is actually the second form of elimination, only second to your bowel. And so if it can't come out the bowel, or it isn't coming out the bowel because you don't have that habitual once per meal per day, then you'll start to notice it coming out your skin. So it's nothing to worry about. Up the water, up the solid fibrous water containing matter, fruits and vegetables, and we'll see how you go. By the time you start fasting, all of that will cleanse out. Do you notice as well a change in your lymphatic system? Today, we're going to dive in and talk about salt. Yeah. So I want you to notice where in your diet you have salt and how you can start to remove it little by little, if not all the way. A lot of salt that you'll get at restaurants is from a factory. It's chemically made, yeah? Sodium chloride. It's not actually naturally occurring like sea salt. Even sea salt, we're eating it in much too highly densely concentrated ways. If we're going to have any salt that we're adding at all, the recommended kind is that from the Himalayas, so it's the pink Himalayan salt. And the reason for that is the mineral content is much higher, and it actually has a bit of a phytonutritious element because of the high mineral content versus that sea salt, yeah? And so what I want to avoid, and I'm conscious of it as I'm talking to you right now, is thinking of things as good and bad and can and can't have. Everything's ingredients, and we're always going to be at some level of compromise on this scale of perfect eating, because the reality of it is that we're humans living in the 21st century world, and there cannot be anything such as perfect eating. But what we're doing in this program more than anything is heightening awareness, so that we know that when we do have, I don't know, maybe chemically made factory salt, that it's going to have an effect on our body and we're going to feel a certain way. And so fasting gives us that clean laboratory in which to make these experiments so that we can start to feel the effect on the body, and that's really exciting. So before the fast right now, we're doing this perceptual mind work where we start to look at the world around us, we start to look at our diet and our habits, so that when we come back to eating after the fast, we're that much more attuned and stronger and able to integrate into the world with this knowledge that we've learned from before. All right? So super exciting. So today we're going to start to look at salt. We're already eating a plant-based diet. Over the next few days, we're going to simplify more and more the diet. Along with salt, what I'll give you today to take away is gluten. And so gluten is the protein composite in bread. Wheat, commercial wheat flour today is very, very, very different than what it was in Egypt as Ekhorn wheat 10,000 years ago when humans first domesticated plants. So that first variety of wheat was much like other grains, where the protein composite was at like maybe 9% of total calorie-nutrient ratio. Now, when we look at wheat, because you think of it as a carbohydrate, right? Where it's like normally 80% carbohydrate, 10% protein, 10% or less fat. That's what makes up any kind of grain. And grain is the seed of the Poaceae family, the grass family. And so when we look at commercial wheat today, it has been hybridized. It has been modified, yeah, in laboratory and outside of laboratory in the field to be much higher in that protein composite called gluten. Yeah, so much so that it's almost 90% protein, about 89% protein. Some gluten flour, like to make bagels, is even 95% protein. Holy moly, that is no longer a carbohydrate. It's crazy. And so the thing is that we've invented a frankenfood. And by all means, this is what gives the French boulangerie its ability to have that doughiness. And yet, when that comes into the human body, it is like a panic button. It creates a whole host of inflammation because the body simply doesn't know what to do with it. It's an invented food. It's not natural. And so it comes into the human body and creates a tremendous amount of inflammation. So I'm just going to give you an example. You can play with it and think about it in your head. There's two really great books. One of them is called Grain Brain. The other one's called Wheat Belly. Check them out at a library near you and read them maybe during this week and do some thoughts on your own. But in general, my example for you is the Santa Claus body. So the classic Santa Claus body, yeah? Or any middle-aged man, right? He often has this big old belly right here over his belt. And what do we call that? Yes, a beer belly, right? And what is beer made out of? You got it. Wheat. So what we find there is that guy's not fat, right? He's not fat because if he were, you'd see it in his face, you'd see it in his arms, you'd see it in his legs. It'd be proportional. What he is instead is just a little bit swollen in the colon. Yeah? His colon, his intestines right here, small and large, are actually swollen. And the reason for that is inflammation, often from wheat, along with sugar, along with being super backed up from eating animal products and other things like that. But the belly's protruding. Yeah, super, super dangerous and not seen anywhere in the wild. Outside of small African children and certain kinds of parasites. But this Western dude, yeah, it's definitely a problem. And so when the colon swells, what happens is that if that's the outside of the large intestine, that's the part that receives more blood flow. And the blood flow is the body's healing response. It's the body trying to help itself. That's what swelling is. Like if you break your arm, it'll start to swell. Blood brings oxygen, life force energy. And so as it swells, it's going to actually make the space inside skinnier. So have you ever noticed if you have pencil thin poos? That's an indication that you've eaten something that you're intolerant to. And that could be anything from definitely gluten to dairy to, who knows, things like chickpeas or tomatoes. Solanaceae family, that's one that's a big one. But all of these minute food experiments you can do later on afterwards. We're going to look at these big categories like white sugar, like animal products, and we're going to start to cleanse them from our diet to prepare the body to go into detox mode. All right, so we're on day 5. We're coming in. We're going to start to remove gluten along with sugar, along with dairy, along with eggs, along with animal products, along with all those stimulants, the processed foods, anything that has a label XYZ, yeah? Go ahead, say bye, thank you so much. And as we come into this process, the body will get used to pooping more, being more hydrated, and having more plant-based matter. All right, so that gluten-free one might be a bit of an exploration for you. Often what people do is they'll go and they'll get gluten replacement products, like the gluten-free bread at the store, and those often aren't that much better. Yeah, they don't have wheat flour in them, but they have tons of additives and preservatives and other kinds of chemicals and bad oils that aren't really meant for the human body. So my invitation to you is just go without. You know, you can have some sweet potatoes, roasted squash, nice things like that for your carbohydrate load, for those calories in your evening meal. Experiment with that. Let me know how it goes. I believe in you.